What's up, gamers? I'm here today to tell you all about the TrimUI Smart Pro S, the upgrade to the original TrimUI Smart Pro. And while I did not personally care for the original TrimUI Smart Pro, many of you did, and I do believe that this is a worthwhile upgrade. In fact, in many ways, it's even won me over. So let's get into it. Now, as I said before, I didn't care for the original Smart Pro. It just wasn't for me, but I am happy to be able to take a look at this upgraded model, this sequel as it were, thanks to Lit NXT, who offered to send one over for me to review. Now, they are an online third-party website that sells retro handhelds and takes a lot of care in what they do. I highly recommend checking them out, but I'm glad they sent this over because otherwise I never would have checked this out and I wouldn't have known the care and time and attention that TrimUI took to really update and fix some of the problems that I didn't like about the original TrimUI Smart Pro. And my two biggest complaints about the original was there were a lot of things that didn't run full speed, including PSP, which this is clearly modeled after. And my other complaint was always the joysticks. They were shallow and slick, and they just weren't usable. Your thumbs would slide right off of them, and that made them a real pain to use when trying to play PSP. And I'm just going to start there with this review. You can see that the thumbsticks are still fairly shallow, but they are actually 1 millimeter higher than the original Smart Pro, and they have a much better rubberized texture on top that keeps your thumb from slipping off. Now, it's been a while since I tried out the Smart Pro, so I may just be remembering it wrong, but I remember it having a lot more hard plastic on top, and this has much more rubber, and it's just been a much better experience. Now, it's still not like having full-size joysticks. Obviously, those would be much better, but for a pocketable, portable retro system like this, I think they get the job done. All the other face buttons, including the menu, start, select, the D-pad, and the ABXY buttons over here, they have a nice travel distance to them. They have a nice tactile click, but not one that's noisy. And even though the D-pad and ABXY buttons are a little on the small side, they are actually pretty comfortable to use, and they remind me a lot of the TrimUI Brick, which I absolutely love. I'll also note at the top we have stacked triggers that are bigger than the original Smart Pro triggers, and they're very comfortable to use. Your finger really just sits right there where it needs to, wraps around there. I recently reviewed the Ambernick RGDS, and I really complained about those triggers because they were very far away from the D-pad and the thumbstick. It just was uncomfortable to get to, but these are perfect. The form factor here really does feel quite nice, so I have no complaints there whatsoever. You even have a power button and a home button here on top. Now, that home button, it doesn't actually take you home necessarily. The menu button is used for that, but the home button is used to bring up this menu. It's sort of like the drop-down menu from your iPhone or your Android phone. And so you get here and you have access to things like your Wi-Fi and Bluetooth, the LED lights around the thumbsticks, your brightness on your screen, the volume. You can even change the fan speed, and if you want to put this in performance mode or a lower power state on your CPU. And it even tells you all of those things right here, which is really, really neat. Now, this is not a touch screen, so you do have to actually go through here with your D-pad and select what you want. But personally, I don't think that's a big deal. It's pretty easy, pretty intuitive to get to. I think all of the symbols that they've used here make sense. They're pretty universal. It even has a way here to kill whatever app you're running, whatever game you're running, has a kill switch there in case it gets stuck or something and starts to crash, but it's not going back to the home screen. Now, with this, Lit NXT also sent me over a CrossMix OS card. Now, for me, CrossMix has always been just a little bit clunky, a little bit kind of weird to navigate, and I don't like all of these like very intricate backgrounds. I think it makes it hard to see the icons and read the text, but the performance, which is way more important than any of that, is quite excellent. Now, there was one problem when I first got this, and it's that Dreamcast games weren't running. They would all crash, and I couldn't figure out why. But since then, there has been a hotfix that fixed the Dreamcast, and you can get that via the over-the-air updates. And I absolutely love that this has over-the-air updates. It works very very well. This does have 8 gigabytes of internal storage for the OS, and so it downloads the update automatically and installs it, and you really don't have to tinker with much of anything or do anything. It does all that for you, which is really, really great. So there's no like removing the SD card and downloading something onto your computer and trying to flash it to an SD card and then doing the update. It's all over the air. And while we're here looking at apps, of course, you can see that Portmaster is built into here. You have a file manager. You have RetroArch settings that you can mess with. You can even load this up with video and ebooks, pictures. You can do Moonlight streaming. There's all kinds of different stuff you can do here. This does also have the function switch, that classic TrimUI function switch on the bottom, and you can set that to do different things. Like you can set it to do night mode, which dims everything. You could turn the LEDs on and off. A quiet mode, which reduces the fan noise. Silent mode, which I think just turns the fan off completely. CPU power save, which drops the CPU power down. Performance mode, pushes the CPU power up so you can run more demanding games, and you can even do turbo on your different various buttons here. So we kind of already covered Dreamcast. Dreamcast is working now, and I will say that one of the upgrades here that they tout is that almost all the games in Dreamcast and PSP now run at full speed, and I'm here to attest that that is pretty much true. There are some games that still struggle just a little bit. Now on PSP, for example, there are some games that you can even run them at 2x, and man, they look so gorgeous when you're running them at 2x. But when you get to some more demanding games like Chains of Olympus, it's going to struggle to run it at 2x. And in fact, it's still even at points going to struggle to run it at 1x. And that's really disappointing, because I was hoping that with this more powerful CPU in here, which is the all-winner A523, with an upgraded GPU as well, I believe it's the Mali G57, I had hoped that we would be able to run all the PSP games at 2x, which would have filled this 720p screen perfectly. But unfortunately, that's not the case. So there is that to think about when you're considering buying this thing. However, at 1x, almost all PSP games will run at full speed, and that is really great to see. I've also seen improved performance on N64, Sega Saturn, and Nintendo DS on the Smart Pro S versus the original Smart Pro. A couple of other things after using this for about a month is that I've already kind of alluded to it. It does have a fan on the back to help keep this all running smooth and cool. And that seems to work pretty well. You can hear it if in a quiet room, of course, when it turns on, but I very rarely hear it, or it almost never becomes a distraction. It also has stereo front-firing speakers that are small, but they're not as thin and tinny as the TrimUI Brick. Now, because of their size, they're not going to be hitting a lot of bass, but they do sound decent. And lastly, let's talk about this screen, because this is a 4.96-inch 16:9 display. And it's pretty good. Now, it's just an IPS screen, it's not OLED, but what I've noticed is that PSP looks really decent on here, and also GBA. GBA looks stunning. It looks absolutely stunning on this display, especially when you have the scan lines built in with the shaders. It's gorgeous, absolutely gorgeous. I highly recommend trying out GBA games on this device. But even though this is a widescreen display, let's say you're playing 4:3 content on here, letterbox content, you're going to still get a 4-inch display right here in the middle of the screen. And since a lot of retro handhelds come with a somewhere between 2.8-inch and 3.5-inch screen, that 4-inch screen really kind of does just take it to the next level. It is just a little bit bigger. It makes everything look, a little bit easier to see and a little bit prettier. And so I do appreciate that about this as well. All in all, even though the performance isn't perfect, I am a fan now of the TrimUI Smart Pro S. I do think that I wish the original Smart Pro had been this to begin with. I would have enjoyed it so much more. I think TrimUI heard the complaints of the people and addressed some of those issues and made some smart choices that still kept the cost down, around the same as the original, but allowed for it to be a much improved device. But those are just some of my thoughts. What are your thoughts? Let me know in the comments. Thank you for watching, liking, subscribing. Stay kind and encouraging out there, and I'll catch you on the flippity flip.